Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, November 19th. We are approaching Thanksgiving Day in the United States Thanksgiving. So, pretty much this should be a week where a lot of people are off from school. Not so many people are off from work as they would like. Although there is a large contingent of people that prefer to work during Thanksgiving and over forced like family bonding with people they don't want to bond with, or expected family bonding, or you know, people that don't have any family or friends that would invite them to Thanksgiving anyways. Let's see. I started late. That's because I stayed up late last night programming, and I'm attempting to automate scheduling videos to make that theoretically a much quicker process. Right now I have like 50 Hearthstone videos that need to get programmed. I didn't think, honestly, as I re-roll this daily quest, I honestly didn't think that you would have been able to program it and automate it, but I found a Chrome plugin designed specifically to automate actions on web pages, which then gets a tighter integration on what form box where you type in the title. It knows where the title box is, it knows how to put information there, it knows where the description box is, it knows where the tags box is. But the actual programming through it is actually not super great, and so I'm banging my head against it, trying to learn yet another variant of a compiler, basically. Let's see, we'll start off by playing some shaman cards. Also, I managed to stupidly in pre-decorating for Christmas, not really my choice to do that so early. I had a Lego Christmas train and I stupidly put a track hanging off the ledge of a table, and it was a track that split in two different ways, so you could go one way and I was making a loop to go in a circle and it was supposed to go that way. The train decided to go the other way and right off the table and break into several sections and fling pieces all over the place. So a bit of a Lego emergency, but mostly it's just because I didn't wake up early. The good news is there's probably not a considerable amount of news this week that's going to happen as far as video games, but there was a decent number of video games that we had left over from Friday. So in my consistent and ever continuing effort to want to take the least amount of time here, I think I want to again, I say this almost every stream, try to truncate how long this stream goes. I wouldn't be surprised if the views aren't very good this week in general. I'm also a little confused about how things are gonna go. Like, I'm looking at Black Friday sales. I'm not really sure that there's gonna be any real Black Friday sales. There kind of generally never is. Let's see if I do that. That doesn't do anything, so let's just go ahead and play that. Then in the turn. But yeah, even if there are sales, I don't know if there are really going to be any video game sales, particularly for me on Steam. There might be some sales, I've seen some sales for buying a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. There's some good bundles out there. Now is a decent time to think about buying a console. Although, in all fairness, the best deal you're ever going to get for buying a console is gonna come around from other sections, buying it used from some friend instead of buying it brand new, or even going to a GameStop. And see, I hear the GameStop refurbished consoles aren't that great, but maybe the used ones are different. Like, it really wouldn't be a terrible thought to buy an Xbox 360, in my opinion, right now, particularly if you're getting it for a new game or a kid. Throwing that into the mix with the fact that you could probably spend a lot of money to buy a lot of Xbox 360 games really cheap. The 360 is taking place of what the PlayStation 1 and 2 were. It's just there was a lot of games there. And then if you ever upgrade to an Xbox One, you have that ability where the 360, you put the 360 disc in the Xbox One, and then you have this backwards compatible download version of the game. Let's see. Can't do all of this. I can either do this and that, and then that. Yeah, but I'm not sure about actual Steam games being on sale for Black Friday. I really haven't heard any talk. Like, the funny thing about Valve is, and Steam, is that they don't really announce sales at all. So it may be that there's just kind of like a weekend sale that's not really that important. That would be alright and pretty good, because then I don't have to agonize about how much money I'm not spending because I'm so broke. As far as Steam sales, and then that would just push it into a December sale, which one assumes they're going to have. It would be funny if it turned out the October sale that was just like a weekend long and really didn't have any, like, anything going on for it as far as a mini game or anything. The Steam Summer Sale is the big one, and maybe they're focusing more on that. That being said, Artifact is coming out, so it would make a lot of sense for them to have scheduled and wanted their card game Artifact to come out right during a Steam sale comes out. That way more people would potentially buy that game, which I'm hearing is kind of dead on the water, dead on arrival, and people are not liking it just for the simple fact of how incredibly greedy it is. And that is saying quite a lot, because Hearthstone and Activision Blizzard aren't really known for being super generous anyways. I guess we're mostly trying to play Shaman cards, so let's see. We could play this, and we can do this, and then we can run the turn. I did finish Back to Bed. I made 3 episodes instead of 4, which I think just will fit into the timing better. If not, if I somehow screwed that up, then there just won't be anything that airs on that Friday or something like that on the 30th. I was a lot crueler the second time playing Back to Bed, in all honesty. Having to play a game twice and then criticize it more, it is probably a good explanation to say that my blood boils as I continuously play a game, so I'll be moderately positive and optimistic at the beginning of playing a game, particularly if it's a game I've never played before. And while by the time I'm at the end of it, if it's a bad game, I'm not super happy with it. So if I have to play it again, I'm starting at not super happy with it, and then I'm ending at I totally hate this game. There's definitely some bugginess in Back to Bed that should not be there. It's crazy that this 30 level game with 2 difficulty versions of their levels was kickstarted. It's crazy that there's no boss fight when obviously, like, you run into these clocks that in Back to Bed in the first 15 levels there should have been like a giant clock boss fight at the end of those 15 levels. You run into these dogs and whale trains, or just trains, for since it doesn't really matter to explain that they're whale trains. It's pretty obvious that there should have been a giant train character at the end of the second 15 levels.
Well played.
Since the character in Back to Sleep is sleepwalking and just will always walk in a straight line until he bumps into something, and then he'll rotate clockwise 90 degrees. It's amazing that game doesn't have switches where the character Bob actually steps on a switch and activates anything. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. There's a lot of art assets that get changed for no reason. A lot of rules in how the gameplay reacts that's not well explained or explained at all. Alright. If I can get 5 more damage before this guy totally wrecks me. If I could get 1 more damage somehow, that's all I need to do. But after doing Back to Sleep, I looked at doing an outro. Honestly, I don't think I have the skills. I thought about it. I tried to do the recording. I tried to think about by making a pre-recorded outro, which I've seen. It's about 50-50 on YouTube. This is where YouTube comments would be helpful. My fans' comments would be helpful. Does it really? Do you think it would help people subscribe or donate to my Patreon or follow me on social media if I tried to make a pre-recorded version of that and you're just hearing that same thing over and over again? Or is it better for me to just say that stuff at the end so that it is a uniquely heard experience? Okay, I'm going to die. So go ahead and do that. Do that. And then in return.
Well played.
As I thought about it, as I thought about what I could actually pull off and do with the amount of time and skill I have, which a lot of it really just falls down to skill. All the predefined endings are made on YouTube are made by people who have like a whole art department, and they're making special backgrounds and borders and green screening, and it's usually somebody on the screen, and it's usually this somber, please take a moment to support us via this via Patreon or something. Yeah, so I basically gave up on that and moved on to trying to automate, or I got the idea that, hey, maybe I could automate scheduling videos, which is the #1 time suck. as far as working on the YouTube channel and not creating actual content. The next big time suck, if I can really get the automation of scheduling, which still will take some effort and some time to get done. There's a lot of setup that would still have to be done. It just theoretically is going to take, instead of 7 minutes is about how long it takes me to schedule one video. I'm hoping that it gets to something closer to, well, 1 minute. If we can get it down to 1 minute, that would be nice. I'm gonna go ahead and play this. I'm gonna do this. The main issue is you still have to kind of tell this automation program through a comma separated values file, a CSV file, which is just a text file with commas in between each important bit of information. So I have to make this special text file that has like a link to every page that is an episode in whatever video. I have to tell it what's the beginning of that name, what's the ending of the name, so Hearthstone number, what is the episode number. So there's a beginning, a middle, and an end in the title. I have to tell it what the description should say, what the tag should say, and when you put in the tags and stuff, you're going in a pretty deep dive, because that makes it look like it's this really long text file, but actually it's a really long run-on line as far as how the automation program considers it, and just the date, and a lot of this just hasn't been programmed yet. The date it starts at, the up to 7, I'm gonna program it to do up to 7 playlists that it can be added to. There's just a lot there. Astonishing. And it's not a terrible, it's not gonna be a terrible lot of effort. It's just a lot of debugging. The problem with programming for most instances is you've got the idea in your head. Once you program it, you've got to then fight against the software to say, no, I didn't mean for you to do this, I meant for you to do this other thing. Let me reprogram it and tell you how this really is supposed to go. Let's see. Is there anything else to say there? Because we're taking quite a while to just get into the news.
Out of my
the good news is, after you set the values, I'm programming the automation software, so if you on the first line say it's episode, in Hearthstone's case it would be like episode 1165, the movement there is to then just put nothing in the next line. So once the first line for Hearthstone is set up, the other 49 episodes of Hearthstone, all I have to do is put, here's the next file, and it will just automatically increment the episode number and put the same information over and over again. It's in the repetition that it becomes a problem. And theoretically, this means I can also, instead of having to individualize it, I can simply have a single comma separated value system that after the 50 Hearthstone episodes have aired, I can then change the information again on the next line and have it start scheduling and putting out things for any other series. So theoretically I could spend one day having it schedule hundreds upon hundreds of episodes if we'd ever get that high, and it will just do them all in the order that I want, which is nice. And let's see what it is. Is this an elemental? No, that's not an elemental. Which one's an elemental? I guess these are elementals. Let's go and play this. And do this. And let's go ahead and take out the dangerous one. Of course, for the end of the year Steam wishlist cleanup to schedule that, each video title is going to be different, and it's not going to have an episode number because it's a spotlight. So at that point I have to, I think, type in the word spotlight as I want it to appear, and it should still work. So there's a lot of cases in which I'm gonna have to test this, make sure it still works, test it again. It's going to require an expert understanding of this automation, in the hopes that it saves me time in the long run. And ideally, you would just want a system, a content management system to exist on, in the case of YouTube, that just made it a lot easier. Like, and also I'm gonna have to reprogram all of this slightly, I think, to as soon as they go to the new YouTube Studio beta, which theoretically is gonna make it even more difficult, but I'm hoping that that wouldn't change too much. Let's see. But that's enough talking about programming and abstract things that I may make a video to show it off, but I don't think it would inherently even be that interesting. The automation software I'm using is a mess, and its instructions are not helpful at all. It's like you'll click. It has a button for like more information about this command, and then the information about the command does not list basic things that you'd want to cross-reference, like internal values that could be used, how it works, what it works. It has, like, you from a pull-down box pick a selection of about 20 very basic programming commands. You really can't make your own programs. You can't, as far as I can tell, make functions. So it gives you really long commands too, really long code. It doesn't include things like switches or a for loop. It just has a while loop and if loops. You can't have nested if commands. It's really, really basic. If it weren't for the fact that it was so targeted to web page programming, I would move to something else. but then I'm trying this one. It would really suck if it turns out there's like one thing I cannot do at all, and I actually did have to move to a different Chrome plugin. And I did manage to like cause it to like crash the YouTube page, because it was just like typing the wrong thing over and over again. Let's start talking about news though. TechRaptor has an article. CBS hosts the Gamer's Choice Awards days after Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. And I think that there's an argument here that maybe the mainstream video game media, of which I guess I'm including TechRaptor now, even though they're not anywhere as offensive as many of the other people. I think they're taking offense where Jeff Keighley needs to come out and be interviewed if he wants to take offense from this, because this really looks like this is competition. Just CBS is grasping at straws, and they want to compete. I wouldn't be surprised if this is straight from some of the people who are running Game Informer and Giant Run. Although, like, I thought that at least one of the persons at Giant Bomb was a voting member of the Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, but maybe not. In a weird way, this might go back really, really far in history. It might not be insane if it turned out that if CBS, the people that work at CBS now, either worked at Spike TV or G4 TV. I think it was Spike TV that had the Jeff Keighley's Game Awards on TV before it was called Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, and that relationship broke up. So this might just be like internal politics too. This Gamer's Choice Awards is being run, from what I hear from the makers of the Teen Choice Awards, ES&G Entertainment, and let's see, apparently ES&G Entertainment doesn't have any web presence at all, interestingly, according to TechRaptor. So just keep playing these shaman cards. So this is happening December 9th, which, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. You don't, they all kind of don't air new episodes of regular things in December anyways. And CBS Sunday, December 9th, it's like right after a football game, so there's a decent chance that this entire award ceremony gets overrun or pushed late in the night. So yeah, for CBS, this very well may just be an experiment and a time filler. In the same way that CBS All Access was an experiment and a time filler. Let's see. The host for this Gamer's Choice Awards will be VH1's Carrie Keegan and, quote, gaming expert, in quote, Marcus DJ Wheat Graham. Mr. Wheat is the director of Twitch Studios and produces a Twitch-based reality series called Stream On. So, like, I haven't heard of either one of those people. So this is very, if it's like the Kids' Choice Awards, or the Teen Choice Awards, this really is probably going to be so unfocused as far as hardcore gamers. It's probably going to be just for teenage kids, and so it's just going to be like Fortnite, particularly when we start. I might be wrong about Fortnite, though. Particularly since it's just going to be people voting themselves. Gamers can now register on the official website and vote once each an hour until November 27th. So you have quite a few days here where once per hour you can just vote. Let's see. And I wanted to, now that we're no longer doing the end of the year wish list cleanup, I wanted to bring up the zoom a little bit. So let's come over here and play. The 3 categories I'm seeing here are fan favorite game, with options being Overwatch, League of Legends, Fortnite, Marvel, Spider-Man, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Monster Hunter World, Call of Duty Black Ops, Celeste, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and God of War. And see, looking at this from the fan voting category, I say it goes to Fortnite. Next category is most anticipated game: The Last of Us Part 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Death Stranding, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, The Elder Scrolls 6, Days Gone, Anthem, Cyberpunk 2077. Again, interesting. And Rage 2. I don't know why they put it Cyberpunk twice. If this is the actual form, then I would guess maybe Cyberpunk 2077 might get half the votes in any one category, but I would say Cyberpunk 2077 is probably a fan favorite, most anticipated. I don't think people are really that hardcore into Death Stranding as much as hardcore gamers would be, and I don't think any of the other ones come anywhere close in anticipation and hype. Then there's a fan favorite action game: God of War, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Marvel, Spider-Man, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Far Cry 5. I think Spider-Man takes that for that. Let's see. And then let's see, fan favorite male voice actor, fan favorite female voice actor. Think I want to kind of not spend a lot of time going through this, all the voice actors' names. So the male voice actor is probably gonna go to, let's see, the actor who played somebody in God of War, Kratos. So Christopher Judge as Kratos in God of War would be my guess, because the other games, and this is really what this is going to come down to, is how do you feel about the game before anything, are 2 actors from Detroit Become Human, one from Spider-Man, one from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I could see Peter Parker's voice actor also winning. The voice actor who played Baldur in God of War, or the father in Far Cry 5, I don't think have a high chance of winning there. Female voice actors, it's not going to be the voice actress that, or female voice actors. There's some weirdness certainly there, where half the female voice actresses now want to be called actors and half don't. I guess eventually it's all going to be everybody's an actor. I can see the logic to that, but I can also see the frustration in having to adapt how you describe something that you've been describing for your entire life. Let's see, the female voice actor in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, who plays Cassandra, I could see her winning because I've heard that's very good. The Detroit Become Human, or the actor who plays Freya in God of War. No, I don't think so. I don't think Mary Jane Watson plays a big enough role in Spider-Man for her to get that victory. I could kind of see the idea there, but I'm not sure that that would really happen.
Free me! Into the breach!
And then the actor who plays Yuri Watanabe in Spider-Man, I think she plays a bigger role in the movie, in the game, but I still don't think she'd win. I think it goes to Cassandra, the actor who plays Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Probably. And then fan favorite character of the year, the options are Lara Croft, Kratos, Peter Parker, Cassandra and Alexos, so it's both of them from Assassin's Creed. Leo, Curtis from the game A Way Out, yeah right, and Connor from Detroit Become Human. I think Peter Parker wins that award, hands down. Yeah, and Jeff Keighley here has just got a tweet that's like SMH shaking my head, which I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to say there. I mean, that's hardly anything to be too concerned about for the Gamer Choice Awards. I am fairly certain that there are more awards, but those are the only ones that were shown to me. I am not sure why that was the case. Let's see. Right, let's... we gotta keep these guys dead in the jump. So yeah, the Gamer's Choice Awards, not a terrible thought, honestly. The thing I would say here is you're very possibly not having votes getting manipulated by people in the industry, which was my complaint just a couple of days ago in the last stream, I believe, about how the Game Awards were really like the Oscars. It's people in the industry giving themselves awards, and it honestly would be better if the Oscars gave out the Tonys, the people in the movie industry gave out the awards for the theatrical Broadway plays, and it just went in a big circle. This idea of having people vote, I mean, it really just comes down to a popularity contest amongst people who actually theoretically bought and played the game versus the industry people who probably got the game for free for consideration. So you'll see probably some very useful information in that too. So often it's kind of hard to see, but so often we run into this case where these small independent favorites of mainstream video game journalists get awarded. Celeste is a great example of that this year. It's like, Celeste looks like it's a fine game, but it's not a game that the average video game player is going to know about, going to play, and going to rank highly. It isn't the case, I don't think, that there's what am I trying to say here? That Celeste is this niche, super popular game. It's not like The Binding of Isaac. If anything, The Binding of Isaac as a series was this niche, super popular series that really didn't get any awards. So, a fan favorite award show might bring about a game like The Binding of Isaac and would ignore the artsy-fartsy kinds of games that often get overhyped for crazy reasons. Now, I don't know how to believe this, but I've heard some more stories that a couple more Japanese visual novel games have been kicked off for the same reason. It seems like there is, at the very least, if these stories are to be believed, and it isn't just a case of now 3 developers of Japanese visual novels straight up lying about the content of what's in their game. The most recent one I heard is that the developer got a comment back saying it exploits children. I don't know how. I think that accusation on fictional characters is ridiculous. You're no more exploiting a fictional virtual child. You're not capable of doing that because it's not a real character. It would be the same as saying that that Call of Duty or any regular first-person shooter condones violence because you're shooting fictional virtual people. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. And this developer said that he did the standard Japanese thing where they said everybody is well beyond is beyond the age of consent, 18 or older. The age of consent, by the way, in Japan, I think might be in some jurisdictions as low as 16 or even 14. And in the United States, there are certainly ways and laws in some states that have the age of consent as low as, I think I've heard it could be as low as 12. Like, if your family consents and you're 12 years old, you can get married. In some states. I think that's what I heard. So, these numbers, going to 18 is just the standard everywhere. But, again, they're fictional characters, so what does it matter? And the picture that was shown of the character that allegedly Valve had trouble with looked exactly like every other 18-year-old anime girl in any other game. So it seems to be very randomly enforced. It seems to be that they probably are shipping the work of looking at games that are flagged over to like India or someplace, and there's just some kind of rogue employee there, or it's a Campo Santo employee, which is still a possibility. It is a Campo Santo employee or some other Valve employee that actually works in Valve's headquarters offices, and it's just like one employee who's not following the rules that they had agreed upon. Or maybe it's a case of Valve is just straight up lying, you know? Like, maybe this was their plan all along. Now, I wanted to cover that story and just talk about that story for a second before I came over here and did this web peek for this game, this obvious troll game on Steam that was approved, Slave Master the game. We have, by the Black Jester, this is clearly a troll game. This is clearly an offensive game. This is an RPG. It's tagged not safe for work. Like, why is this allowed even for a second on Steam? Why is this not getting caught and looked at first? And in the end, why have I seen developers of games like this who get to stay on Steam for way too long? I can see this publisher has already developed a different publishing name. Like, this is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. And this is like after previous incidences of slave style games getting found and called out. You just run a simple filter and flag anything with slave in the name. It's that easy. Like, that's all you have to do. And yet they're not doing that. But they are focusing on the visual novels that look good. it does lean towards the idea of the tinfoil hat theory, that Valve is intentionally letting really bad games that are tagged sexual content, not safe for work, and contains nudity. They're letting those games stay on Valve to poison the well, and they are kicking off the ones where people actually care and put effort and have some visual polish on it. Let's see. It'd be nice if I won here, but I don't think I am. Let's move on. We've got a lot of games to talk about and cover, and I've been particularly slow. Let's see, we have a game on Steam, and now I'm called Campedo. I've expanded, zoomed in the graphics a little bit so I can read it a little bit more. In all seriousness, I need to rethink how my monitors are placed. Being across a 10-foot room is not a great idea. At first look, this doesn't look great. At second look, it looks like it might be something. So, seems like it's probably not, though. Let's look at this developer and see. I guess I can put it just on the follow list, though. Like, yeah, this developer hasn't made anything else. Yeah, this game doesn't probably deserve to be on the follow list, but I'm gonna be generous and put it there. Let's see, it's a unique card game. It says, okay, we need to play this, and let's see, this maybe, and this. Let's see, if we hit this here, we hit that there, and we can heal. ScumVM is working on their website some more. That doesn't really matter too much, but they did put out a tweet, so I'll mention that.
Let me access denied.
We have a game on Steam called Special Counter Force Attack. We have some really good news, actually, when we get to it, of like all the Disney LucasArts games have been put on Steam. Like all the ones that have been missing since they were originally released. This game looks polished enough to be on the follow list. Bleeding Edge Studio. I don't know, it's not got a lot here, but yeah. I'm almost certainly going to have to decide to... Let's see. I'm almost certainly going to have to decide to have... Alright. I kill this one, and then I play this.
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
And I end the turn there. Yeah, so we're gonna see a lot of LucasArts games that get added to the wish list, on the follow list, pretty much the wish list. For a second there, as I saw them coming out via the What's on Steam bot, I'm thinking, this has got to be a troll. This has got to be something crazy, because nobody has reported on it at all. And some of these are like Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. I don't believe that's ever been on PC before. So like that's kind of amazing. You would think something would have been mentioned. But also, I guess people are just at the end of the year and they're not really paying attention. Okay. Let's do this. Might as well do this. And this. And this. Okay. We need this going. And we need this gone. And this gone. And this gone. And hit that. And that wasn't great. That was not a great experience. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Evoke, which looks like another VR game where you're casting spells. Looks a little bit more polished. So I think at this point I will have to just put on the fall list a whole bunch of VR games that are stand in one place for the most part to cast spells, and it'll be like, okay, which one of these is reviewed best or actually plays the best or looks the best. This actually looks a lot better than some of the other ones I've seen, so it seems like this concept is getting more and more evolved. Again, probably never going to actually own VR, but I'll keep them on the fall list. I suppose it's worth mentioning that I screwed up big time on the wish list. I don't know why Steam works this way, but if you click and install a free game on Steam, it gets added to your purchase list, but it doesn't go into your library if you cancel the install. So what I did, and I thought I was being smart here, was cleaning up the wishlist by confirming that I want to own these games that are actually free, and just having them in that background secret. You own this, you can't lose the rights to it, although I think I probably could still lose the rights to it because it was a free game if it got removed from Steam completely. The problem is those aren't in the library, so I can't put them in a category of a got free game. The only thing I guess I could do, as I'm thinking about, is maybe I could look in some kind of account purchase history catalog, but yeah, I think that's kind of all I could do. But in the end, I guess it doesn't matter. I lost maybe 30 games. Now I need to play 100 cards. So like 30 games that were free anyways that I kind of wanted to cover now are off the wish list as my final act, pretty much for a while at least, of cleaning up the wish list. So it's not a big deal. I have 930 plus games in my library. Not that all of those are playable or worth playing, or haven't been played or covered before.
Let the hunt begin.
And I did look at the wish list, and we are at about 2,000. I'd say 200. So like 2,200 games more that I want to own, and or at least I'm considering owning. So from that perspective, you kind of know that there's like 1/3 of the way done, frankly, as far as owning games. I am looking on Black Friday of trying to get a Gigabyte GTX 1080 or 1080 Ti, but it doesn't, from what I'm seeing, doesn't seem like those are actually going to be on sale, because I think the demand is still kind of high for those. Like, I could get like a 2070, but I'd have to pay a lot more, or a 2080, and that's too much.
Job's done.
Alright. So, play one more spell. And then these two are set. Let's see.
Job's done.
There we go. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Telltale's The Walking Dead is back in development. Skybound begins work on the final 2 episodes with some of the original team members. Which it's not probably super surprising that that they had to start the liquidation process a little bit before they could even start doing any work, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's people who are going to claim that Skybound doesn't even have the right to do that deal, because it was a deal done in an effort to, like, potentially hide income or manipulate the scenario. It was a deal done in bad faith or something like that. I don't know. Like, certainly in bankruptcy, if you give all your money to a charity that you run, that you're the CEO of, and you plan on getting all that money paid to you in a bonus at the end of the year back, judges can usually discover and find that stuff and undo any kind of deal like that. But there is also a certain level where you can get away with things like that too, particularly if you do it like a year in advance. But I think in this case, particularly, I don't think too many of the creditors are going to say that Skybound is intentionally doing something deceptive, or they negotiated like a sweetheart deal to finish the last 2 episodes in favor of a higher licensing fee. I imagine that's perfectly fine and nobody's going to complain, because I doubt any of the other liquidators had any idea of how they were going to finish the Telltale series to make it valuable, which inherently that's where that comes up from, is, are you going to make this product valuable so it can be sold again, or are you going to let it squander and become not valuable, not something that could be sold. OpenCritic has put up a timer for the Darksiders 3 review embargo of 6 days, 10 hours, 47 minutes, and exactly 0 seconds on the Bing. So one would assume for a game like Darksiders 3, unless it's a lot shorter, it may have been in people's possession even a couple weeks ago. When we start hearing that review embargo go up, this could be, oh yeah, it's a great game, or we could be hearing that it's actually an awful game. Also, if somebody breaks embargo, which can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the embargo gets lifted early. So having a timer is really just more of a hype train. It's OpenCritic doing it, so I mean, that's kind of just a shame on them. GameIndustry.biz has an article. The Turkish Ministry of Commerce is investigating the PlayStation over price increases. Red Dead Redemption and other major titles in the Turkish PS store see higher prices in the midst of the country's inflation. This puts you in a weird position, I suppose. Like, when you have a very controlling dictatorship like Turkey and Erdogan, they probably are manipulating their currency, I would say, in certain ways to benefit their country, and saying that there is no inflation. If you're an online store and you see, no, actually there is inflation, so I can't sell this game at the discounted price you want because that would cause trouble, or I just don't want to sell that price. It really is a smack between like manipulating currency and people and countries that manipulate currency, which they all do, including the United States, I'm sure, in different ways, versus a free market capitalism on a global scale. So yeah, it's a little surprising things like this don't happen more often, actually. Let's see. There we go. If you can't heal yourself, you're dead. And this will, I guess, be the end. Like, no, I think we'll go one more game. Yeah, we're one more game and we'll be done with the Americas account anyways. We could leave the one playing dungeon runs to do later, or do even off screen. Now, I don't plan on changing anything on the streaming schedule, so if Thanksgiving, which I should know this, but I don't, if Thanksgiving is gonna happen on a Wednesday or Friday this week or next week or whenever it happens, I still plan on streaming those days. At least that is at the moment. I might put up a small video if something changes. On the other hand, we could also say Sony PlayStation is screwing up in a lot of different ways, but I don't think this one is too much really on Sony PlayStation. It's not unheard of for people to just say also that there is less demand in certain regions, and because there's less demand in certain regions, the price goes up. Like, I've heard stories of like electronics components people selling things for a lot more expensive in Australia than they actually would cost to ship to Australia, just because they're saying, well, there's less demand. Well, I've heard a single story about that, so that might be the issue too. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Activision addresses why the Spyro Reunited trilogy has no subtitles. Activision Blizzard here has released a statement saying let's see.
That didn't go as
It says, like, quote, while there's no industry standard for subtitles, the studio and Activision cares about the fans' experience, especially with respect to accessibility for people with different abilities, and will evaluate going forward. So, in other words, they didn't care, so they didn't put in subtitles. Which, that's just really stupid. Like, and that's crazy, too, because I kind of want to play the Spyro Reignited trilogy. It looks like it's a fun little kids game, and from my perspective, a kids game should definitely have subtitles to help kids learn how to read. The idea that a game doesn't have subtitles in most cases is ridiculous. I could see it in a few cases, but it's really hard. Like Tetris or the Tetris Effect. Does that game really need subtitles? Maybe. Like, even in that case, there might be musical cues. There might be a sound effect. Yeah, even games where there's like no speaking at all. There could be some places where sound effects would help. I'm thinking like Limbo. Limbo, I don't believe has any speaking in it at all. Unless I've vastly forgotten the section. But there definitely were points where sound effects happened in that creepy forest, and that was a audio cue. But Spyro in particular, Spyro looks like a pretty fun gym flying around and collecting gems 3D platformer game for kids. If anything, I would say Spyro Reignited potentially might be better for younger kids than playing something like Mario Odyssey, where that game has a lot more gameplay mechanics and spinning, jumping, throwing hats, taking over control of things. And I'm fairly certain that that the original Spyro games probably do have subtitles too. It really isn't just a deaf or hard of hearing issue too. It's also like just the ease of access. Like I have subtitles turned on all my TVs when I'm streaming Netflix, which I watched season 2 of Castlevania. I'll talk about that for a brief second. Like, I turn on the subtitles because it's just easier to not miss words. It's easier to read things. Generally, I have 3 or 4 different audio sources playing at the same time because I'm in this weird ADHD hyper efficient, or at least it feels hyper efficient multitasking mentality, which could actually all be BS. Like, I'm fully willing to believe that actually no, nothing I do. Let's see. Let's start with this, but let's get rid of this first. So 50-50 shot. Got it. And then let's play this. And
That minion already attacked.
Attack. As for Castlevania Season 2, I felt like all of Season 2 of Castlevania felt very odd. It seemed like it was going very, very fast, and then I looked at the episodes and they're like 26 minutes long. The final episode is kind of an epilogue that shouldn't exist in my opinion, because it really doesn't do anything. I think a lot of the content is basically nothing in there. And see, the first season was very short and kind of just an intro to season 2, and season 2 kind of goes in a slightly different direction and makes the episodes longer but doesn't really do anything there. I'm uncertain whether I even want Castlevania to be a action anime or whether I want it to be a character anime. The season 2 is very much more of a character thing. So yeah, just had a very odd experience. I'm also in a weird position because I haven't played any of the Castlevania games, so I don't really get a lot of the Easter eggs or references, so that's something too, I suppose, to come from it. Apparently, to me, it felt like season 2 wrapped up the entirety of the story, with maybe going in a different direction in a third season that had nothing to do with any of the other Castlevania games. But I don't know the story of the Castlevania games either, so maybe this is doing basically what happens in it. It's a slight spoiler to say that Dracula is out of the picture by the end of season 2, so what do you do at that point? You really can't bring him back unless you bring him back as just like the ghost of Dracula, who's this like hyper evil character. That like it's all the evilness of Dracula with none of the goodness of Dracula. There's weirdness between, like, they keep saying there's a difference between magic and science, and really it just all looks like magic. There's weirdness in the language in some of the lines of dialogue. It feels like it's being translated pretty poorly from a Japanese script, which a lot of the insults and the cussing would make a lot more sense in a longer series where more is happening. It doesn't feel like they ever sit down and just have conversations. It seems like they're always moving, always going forward, but what they're actually doing kind of doesn't matter. There's entire fight sequences, entire enemies introduced. Any one of the many vampire generals under Dracula could have been shown off, and they could have been a boss for a few episodes alone. If I was writing Castlevania Season 2, I would have had Dracula send out somebody, like, and after Belmont and Alucard, or what, Alucard, and the woman, I don't even know her name, sorry. The magician lady. I don't know if you ever even play as her as a character in Castlevania. But yeah, you give 3 episodes to them being attacked through different means by different generals, and you could have easily gotten into a monster of the week or monster every 3 episode general idea where you could have worked it downward to excuse me. Yeah, you could have slowly whittled down his troops, and it doesn't really have to be like a Power Rangers. Dracula sending out a new boss to defeat them. It could have been the opposite. They could have found out who the generals are, found out where they were working. Instead of having all the generals in the magic moving castle, they could have been out of their own castles, and they could have been just communicating with Dracula. It kind of makes no sense that they are all in the same castle instead of roaming the lands. There could have been several different locations they went to where really you stayed in the same location. In fact, the more I think about it, that first season had a lot more to do with just the people and the church. The church just doesn't really play any role at all in the second season. I should have attacked. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. There's no people that matter at all, like, except for the 3 main human characters. There's no innocent human standby characters in the entire series. There's no canon fodder for the vampires except for in one scene, and that's it. And in that one scene in which you see the generals fight and feed on humans, is kind of all you get to see. Feels like they just had a lot of ideas and then failed to establish any of them well. But to be fair, I am a critic, and I certainly have heard people liking Castlevania Season 2. I think the pacing was really, really off, and I think if you did your own edit, you could probably take the 26 minutes of any specific episode in Season 2, narrow it down to 6 minutes of actual content, and you would have had a 90-minute series at most for the entire season. Well, this is where I'm going to end this recording. We've gotten the 2 daily quests done, so we only have the Spelunker quest, which I can do later. This will come back in a day. Guess we could double check and just make sure that the new expansion isn't out yet. Yeah, it's not here. I wouldn't be surprised though. Yeah, it would kind of suck if it turns out the new expansion for Hearthstone happens around Thanksgiving. It kind of makes sense too, but man, I'm not quite ready for another expansion. Can you give me at least another month? So I'm going to skip over to the European account in between this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.